Hey Kevin, how are you, mate? Can you hear me all right for starters?
Yeah, fine, mate.
Yeah, can you explain to me whereabouts you are in Kimberley?
We're actually about 280 k's from Kununurra on the coast. We're basically adjacent to the King George River or the King George Falls.
How are they still flowing now, or are they winding up for the year?
Unfortunately, with the quite wet season that we've had this year, unfortunately, no, the falls have stopped.
As I spoke to you briefly yesterday, like I read your Facebook post regards to the fires, and it's kind of been intriguing, the whole fire. I haven't really known anything about, the fire situation and the politics and I suppose the contentious issues that are surrounded by, like, prescribed burnings. Can you tell us a bit about your Facebook post? Tell us what happened.
Well, basically, I've been here for 10 years now, and we seem to get this scenario every couple of years that they do these what they call controlled burns, but it's not controlled at all. Like, for example, the DFES has admitted that they lit the last one that's been through us and completely burnt our water line again. It's burnt all around our cabins, right up to our lodge. All of our sewage systems or sewage pipes have all been burnt. All of our water pipes have all been burnt. Obviously, everything is just covered in black ash, and will be now for some time. Obviously, until the wet season comes again, and obviously it gives the chance for the ground to settle down again. So, again, this particular fire wasn't necessary. It was lit in conditions that are totally unsuitable. They do have to have an authorised permit. I do believe that they did have an authorised permit.
Who's that permit by? Who signs off on that permit, and for this time of year?
I have no idea who signs off on it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's beyond it. Obviously, it's governmental.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. But my understanding is that it's supposed to be what they call a control burn. There's no way in the world you could ever possibly light a fire at this time of the year and expect it to be a controlled burn, I should say.
Yeah.
This particular period of year, since I've been here, every year, between June and July, it blows anything between 25 to or greater in wind strength. And that's the biggest problem when fires are lit in those sort of conditions, is that it just throws the embers so far and you just can't control it. So, and unfortunately, they've done it to us again. And unfortunately, they don't seem to want to take any responsibility for doing it. They admit that they did it, but they don't want to pay to fix it up.
Yeah, so with the costing of that, I mean, obviously, insurance, how do you recoup that money that you have to spend on fixing all that up?
Financially, DFES basically cannot be of any assistance at all. That we put it forward to try and get some assistance. They then put it forward through all of their different departments, and it went through as far as obviously head office. And head office came back and refused to, are not prepared to offer any monetary assistance at all.
Wow.
This particular fire at the present moment will cost us around about $40,000.
Yeah, wow. And, okay, so, and hopefully you've got a good insurance provider then.
Well, unfortunately, this is where the problem comes in. The insurance company will obviously be of assistance because that's what you pay for.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, at the end of the day, we end up paying for it. Now, the scenario will be like, at the present moment, insurance north of the 26 parallel is very, very hard to come by, especially in, obviously, I suppose you would say commercial operations, hospitality, those types of things. There is, to my knowledge, at the present moment, only one company that is prepared to insure. Now, it is a requirement by us that we must have insurance, which you can obviously, it's in regard to obviously a government scenario or requirement. But there's a good chance that these people, after having fire, as I said, in 2014, 2016, 2018 and 2020, we are now looking at a scenario where there's a chance that this particular insurer may refuse to insure us. If they refuse to insure us, we're out of business.
Wow, I'm kind of speechless at the moment in regards to that, but we will keep moving. And so, did they give you any pre-warning of the fires coming your way? Or
no, we were not told at all. So my wife did contact them once we had noticed that it was happening, and we had been given no knowledge that they were going to burn.
So no safety management plans put in place, like for, surroundings, I mean, I don't know the country, but surely it's pastoral land, and you think there would be something where the heads up, there'd be an email or something where people are advised in the region that there's going to be a burn, and, is there any safety management? I mean, obviously you have your own plans in place for fires, but so there's no pre-warning or management plans in place?
Not to my knowledge, no.
No, yeah, interesting. Oh, surely
nothing that we have been informed of, if you know what I mean. Like, if there was a fire plan, for example, in this particular regard to this last one, we were obviously not notified of it, and we were not notified that they were actually going to burn. The only time that we had any contact with the DFES was, unfortunately, by the time it was too late, it was already heading to us. And we were told that we could backburn if we wished to do so. But backburning is probably a good way of trying to stop a fire. But a fire that's burning with a 20-kilometre front with a strong wind behind it, backburning's a waste of time. The wind's blowing it harder than it can draw it back anyway. So it doesn't matter. And that's exactly what happened here. I did actually try to backburn at the very last minute, which is the only time you can backburn anyway, because backburn works on the basis that the actual fire itself draws the air back towards the fire to fuel the fire. So therefore that makes the fire, when you backburn, start a fire. You've obviously still got to put out the bit that's in front, but that draws back into the fire. But that's a waste. You can't backburn when it's blowing 25 or 30 knots, which it does this time of the year, and has done for as long as I've been here. And from what I've been told by the local people, it's been forever and a day.
So how many do you think controlled burns or prescribed burns, it's an interesting word, controlled burns, after your current situation, but how many of them have you experienced, over the 10 years you've been there? And has there been a difference, with wildfires as well as arson? What has been the majority of the fires that have come through from your knowledge?
Basically, the only fire that we had a fire in 2014. We had a fire in 2016. We had a fire in 2018. We had a fire in 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
The only one that we we're not sure of, where it obviously was unknown source. Okay, was in 2018. But the result is still the same. In our opinion, there's no one. We're not against burning, but you need to burn at the correct time of the year, not in June and July when they're totally uncontrollable.
And was there any help, when you radio for help or kind of put the call out, was there any assistance of it, or did you put the call out saying, hey, there's a fire? Did you see the fire from a distance and
Well, unfortunately, in those sort of situations, fire travels so quickly. By the time we saw it, it was coming towards us. It doesn't take very long, especially, as I said, with strong winds behind it. So there was no, basically, by the time we knew that it was going to be imminent, that it was going to strike us, it was too late to get anybody out to do anything. And as it was just but there's been very little assistance. They did try to make some sort of a peace offering in regard to what they could do and what they couldn't do, but that all fell by the wayside. As soon as it went to head office in Perth, they basically said they weren't prepared to pay out anything that involved money.
And how does that, so obviously with COVID-19 this year and you relying on tourism, which I'd say without because you're out there by yourself now, just practically caretaking, yeah?
That's correct.
Yeah, so
due to the COVID scenario, we opened up for the wet season, which we operated. And then we obviously shut down once the COVID came in. But unfortunately now there's only around about 8 weeks left of the season, and as the borders are still closed and could still be for some period of time, it wasn't viable for us to actually turn around and bring in staff and everything to do 8 weeks when it's only a spasmodic scenario. And obviously the cost of people even in Western Australia to fly to the Kimberleys at the present moment is still expensive. And so it wasn't worth our while to do so. So I'm basically here on my own, and that's where it is very concerning. It makes no difference either way. It probably could have been worse if there'd be people there, because there's a good chance that people could have lost their lives. There was every chance that I could have lost my life. I'm fighting a fire to try and save my property. Had I have fallen over, broken my leg to try and stop the fire, it's a good chance the fire would have gone over the top of me and I would have been killed.
So Kevin, were you concerned with your health at all over, with sleep and can you tell us a little bit about that, mate?
Well, yeah, very much so. Like, I fought the fire for approximately around about 36 hours, but it's the amount of smoke and ash that you seem to obviously inhale. I've still got, even today, still got sore eyes. And after the fire itself, for a couple of days, I couldn't do anything. I just was housebound. I'm assuming it was probably the smoke inhalation that created that. But yeah, not good for your health. And that's just another issue in regard to obviously this ridiculous fire.
One of the big questions for me, and this is something that I suppose touches my heart and what's my concern, I've been a local coming over 10 years, but seeing the bush thin out as quickly as it is, especially, the Lake Argyle Road and between Wyndham, have you noticed any changes over the 10 years with like flora and fauna, with this amount of burns over, a 10-year period?
Absolutely. Like they say, there's anything up to 2/3 of the Kimberley's burnt every year, and this is a real problem because the country just never gets a break. It never gets a chance. And burning hot, what we call hot burns, obviously gets huge areas of land burnt, but it's so hot that it destroys all your soft grasses. Like all you end up with all of is these hard grasses like spinifex and all of those types of things. Now, in the traditional burning, when traditional burning was done, they only burnt small areas, and they burnt them obviously during in the wet season or towards the end of the wet season, not when you were going to get 35 or 25 knot southeasterly winds that was going to basically devastate the country. It destroys the Aboriginal and Indigenous rock art that exists in which we have some of the greatest available.
Yeah, that's right.
It heats the rocks up so much that it delaminates the rock, and unfortunately the paintings get destroyed.
Yeah.
Wildlife cannot get away from, some of them survive, but there's a lot of wildlife doesn't survive. Because when a fire is burning at such a raging scenario, they can't get out of its way, and especially when it's 20 k's wide. Out of control. It's just devastating to the whole of the countryside.
So Kevin, we can sit there and, until I suppose speak to, some of the other departments, because I'd love to hear their point of view from, especially this fire, but, others, I suppose. But what other solutions are there, do you think, to prevent this from happening again?
Well, to start with, in regard to stopping this from happening again, is not to be burning during the months where we have strong winds. Okay, like they say that if you have it could be if you get a lightning strike. But when you get lightning strikes, the wind blows in a different direction, so they shouldn't be lighting fires in areas where the winds can create a scenario where people are going to be damaged. So those areas, if they need to be burned, should be burnt in months of the year when the winds blow in different directions, where properties are not going to be destroyed and people's livelihoods aren't going to be ruined, and they can they can get the job done that they need to do. But lighting fires in June and July anywhere at all is absolutely crazy because it's impossible to be able to control it. They've done scientific experiments where they've actually burnt in the wet season, and the rejuvenation is so great, it's been proven beyond doubt that is definitely the best time to burn. The devastation, like the seeds and stuff, you need fires sometimes for certain seeds to obviously be able to germinate, but at a temperature that doesn't destroy the seeds. And this is where a lot of the plants and stuff that are in the Kimberleys are getting depleted because the burns cannot continue and they cannot survive these hot burns. Like there's lots and lots of trees as well, like are destroyed that never ever come back because they get so badly burnt that there is no return. We're losing that part of our environment, which we shouldn't be doing, all because possibly People doing things at the wrong time. Obviously, there's probably a monetary thing involved in it as well, but it needs to cease. It needs to be done more properly, where obviously it's more controlled, and obviously we don't have this huge devastation. And if you do have devastation, you should put your hand up for it and pay for it. You live it. You pay for it. Don't expect somebody else to pay for it. You know what I mean? Like, if you destroy the blooming, the Aboriginal or Indigenous rock art, you should be held responsible for it.
You
can't go and do things and burn things and not be responsible for it. You pay the price.
Yeah, because
what I burn your house down, I'm the one that's in fault. I'm the one that's going to be in trouble. You come and burn my house down, you're the one that's going to be at fault. But these people seem to have a law within themselves that they can do whatever they like, and if it devastates somebody's life and livelihood, or obviously people's culture, and obviously future generations of obviously things that could be saved for future generations, they don't seem to have any qualms about it, and they don't answer to anybody, because I'm sick of it. Like, as I've just given you experiences that, like, I've been here for 10 years, and I've had 4 situations now where I've been burnt out due to negligence, or in my opinion, burning at the wrong time of the year.
Yeah.
And it's always this time of the year that causes the problem.
Yeah.
I've never had, it's always been June and July, which is when we get burnt out.
Yeah. When should they be doing it? So should they be doing it?
There shouldn't be any matches anywhere at this time of the year. Look, there's always an off chance that a fire could be lit by a tourist or something like that, and obviously it can get out of control. But if they put in these areas scar lines during the wet season when it's safe to do so, even if these fires possibly could get away due to obviously scenarios that are beyond the control of any of these departments, the scar lines will stop the fires becoming uncontrollable.
Yeah.
But they don't put scar lines in to control. They just don't worry. They just burn, and that's fine.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's almost my intention for, creating this, this film, which, God, I don't know every day now, as I said to you yesterday, what I'm getting myself into and how much time I need to put into it. But I think it's a story that's just ready to be told, and it's, although there's no perfect time, because I'd hate to think of how many, how much flora and fauna has been lost, but it just seems like a story that needs to come out and be talked about, and it's going to be a contentious issue. Can anyone listening to this, where can people come to, check out Faraway Bay and, check out a bit of your stuff? So you've got a Facebook page, yeah, obviously, because that's...
Yeah, we've got a Facebook page and obviously an internet site as well. Internet site's probably your best.
So website,
which is,
Yeah, no, awesome. Well, we'll hopefully send a few people to your Facebook page and your website, because I know it's a magical place on earth and you're very lucky, but it's a shame you've had to deal with what you've had to deal with. No worries, Kevin. Well, thank you so much again for your time, and I look forward to meeting you if you ever come into Kununurra. Let's have a beer or a coffee. No worries, Kevin. Take it easy, mate, and I'll chat to you soon. See you, buddy. Bye-bye.